Hi guys, Asmo here, and I think I have finally found the one, the build I actually want to play this league and invest into. After rerolling 3 times, trying some self-cooked experimental builds with varying success, I've done some research and I have finally found the perfect build for me that has the right combination of the playstyle I like, great clear coverage, and single target damage good enough to do Ubers easily. It's Reap Exsanguinate Miner Trickster. It's a tried and tested build, and I've managed to put together a nice starter version that cost me 15 divines that I'm going to show you. And if you're good at finding deals on trade, you can put this together for about 15 days, but I would expect that most of you will probably have to spend almost twice as much to get the same level of gear if you don't know all of the tips and tricks for trading and finding cheap items. But that being said, the character is fresh after the campaign and has 100% spell suppression, 100% ailment avoidance, a 6-link, decently rolled flasks, nice lethal pride, nice Watcher's Eye, solid amount of damage on gear, and is set up to rush to high level maps and start farming immediately. Let me go over the gems, gear and passives and explain the character for anyone that wants to set up something similar. And also a big shout out to Fearless Dumbo, who has made a very nice POB and a full guide for this build on his channel that is also going to be linked in the description alongside the POB for the character that I am playing and showing right now. So let's talk about the gems first. This is Exsanguinate. I'm still level 68, so I don't have level 21, but it's very important to get high level of Exsanguinate, level 21 as soon as possible. So that's what I'm gonna do as soon as I hit, I think, level either 70 or 72 when I can equip that. And the quality on it doesn't matter. So you wanna level in the offhand Exsanguinates if you're playing this build, and just basically as soon as they hit 20, you just corrupt them all and try to get level 21. We're running high impact mine support, minefield, charged mines. Charged mines is an amazing support that I pretty much always put into my build because the amount of utility you get from it by like gaining the frenzies and power charges, the mine throwing speed, the crit chance, like all of these things are super useful. Then we're running also increased critical strikes because early on you really need to prioritize crit because we want to freeze consistently. We want to have the crit damage and benefit from the crit damage first of all, and then we're going to be scaling crit multi at higher levels as well. And then trap and mine damage, simply just like one of the best supports in terms of like pure damage that you can get. So that's the main setup. And when it comes to Reap, it basically swaps 1-to-1. You don't really need anything different because we're not running chain in here because there is a super cool tech that I'm going to talk about in a while, and one of the reasons why this build is actually so good to play this league. So if you ever wanted to play this build, like this is the league to play it for sure. Then we have the setup of auras. So I have Enlighten here with Skitterbots, Hatred, and Grace. And Skitterbots have also a really cool interaction with the belt that I'm going to talk about in a moment. But Grace and Hatred, just like the best defensive aura we can run and the best offensive aura we can run, plus Skitterbots, with Enlighten to have a little bit of extra reservation. Then we have Arcanist Brand faster casting with Reap. So that is to keep stacks of the Reap up on bosses when we are swapping to Reap and doing bossing in order to benefit from the damage, because it's the mines that are casting the Reap when we are actually dealing damage. So in order to have the stacks, we are using the Reap with the faster casting and Arcanist Brand to just throw it on the boss and get the stacks rolling while we are dealing damage with the mines, right? Which wouldn't give us the stacks because, you know, they are hitting, not us. Then we have the shield charge, faster attacks, momentum, and frost blink. This is just for mobility. Frost blink is really nice also to cancel your mines, because when we're throwing mines, we have this like long animation because of minefield, and at any point you can cancel it with frost blink because it's an instant skill, as opposed to something like a flame dash, which has a little bit of a bigger range, and I prefer typically to do that, to use it. But if you quality your frost blink up, it has a long enough range that it can jump over most gaps. Then we have also a more duration support linked with a life tap, Assassin's Mark, and Bear Trap. Bear Trap is a huge damage multiplier, very important for single target damage. Assassin's Mark is for our crit scaling, and then we're also using more duration so that we don't have to cast them that often. They simply are going to last longer and allow us to just keep throwing the mines and do damage without having to worry about reapplying these buffs. And life tap because things like, for example, Assassin's Mark have relatively high mana cost, I don't have that much mana or mana regen, and later on we probably swap to a life tap even on like other skills when we are gonna reserve even more of this mana. You could still reserve more of this mana, like I could remove the Reap and faster casting and Arcanist Brand for mapping, and I could put something like Vitality, for example, because regen is pretty important in order to heal all of the damage that we're taking or self-inflicting by using these mines. Since they have a life cost, we are inflicting that on our life. But you can see I'm regenning right up without pressing any flask or doing anything because even without detonating mines, because we also have like extra 2.5% life per second regenerated if we detonated a mine recently, and here they didn't detonate because I have an automation set up, and so you cannot detonate the mines in the hideout when you have that on. But that's these gems. And of course, speaking of detonate mines, we have detonate mines, steel skin and automation. Another good option is also Immortal Call on cast when damage taken in combination with like Enduring Composure, but I don't have the levels yet to put Cluster Jewels, so that's going to be something that we're going to do later. And that's basically the setup for the gems. Very, very straightforward. For the gear, the most important and most interesting thing I think here is the Archon's tools, right? So this is like an insane belt that all the miners are using right now because it gives you Scorch Skitterbot, it gives you also mana reservation efficiency, trap and mine throwing speed, and increased effect of non-damaging ailments inflicted by the Skitterbot. So that is the shock effect, the Scorch effect, which is shredding resistances, and also of course the chill effect. So all of these are very, very powerful and very useful. There's lots of ways to like leverage them and benefit from them. This one I think I got for like 1 divine. You can snipe them sometimes really, really cheaply when they are like corrupted and someone doesn't hit it. And it also had a quality speed modifier, right? So when you have the catalyst for speed, you're also increasing the trap and mine throwing speed, which is amazing. It goes up to 30%. So highly recommend this belt if you're playing a miner. Then we're running a Heat Shiver since we are converting to cold. We're converting to cold through a few things. So the way we're converting our physical damage to cold is through Mastery. That's number 1. That's 40% damage converted. Then we have a Watcher's Eye. That's 35. So that is 75, which means we need 25 more. And we get that from the craft on the gloves, 25% of physical damage converted to cold. So that's how we are converting 100% of our cold damage, of our physical damage to cold damage. As you can see on the tooltip, Exsanguinate is dealing only cold damage and a lightning damage on the tooltip, and then the physical damage per second, like the dot, we don't really care about. So since we're doing all of that cold damage, we're gonna be chilling, we're gonna be freezing, and Heat Shiver is a perfect fit for that. So we're running Heat Shiver as well for some extra damage. Very straightforward. You can get some good corruptions, but they get very, very expensive. So for now I just got a basic one with good rolls in terms of the resistances and evasion. And then we're running Kintsugi. It's a very nice defensive option and also very cheap to get like corruptions with socketed duration gems levels, which applies to both Reap and Exsanguinate. So you want the duration corruption. Also, it's very easy to link an item that is corrupted as well. I got this one for 100 chaos, and then I 6-linked it myself with the fusings, took like 3 tainted fusings. I think they're like 10 or 20 chaos each now. So it's very cheap to do this. It's like less than a divine for a 6-link Kintsugi with +2 duration. Amazing. So we're going to be taking less damage if we haven't been hit recently. It has also some fire res. Of course, we want a chest with like large amount of evasion because we're playing Trickster. And then also 100% increased evasion if you have been hit recently. So it adds to the consistency of our evasion defense. So that's the choice for the chest. And then let's talk about the gloves. So the gloves are the very exciting part of the build because you can have skills used by your traps and mines chain 2 additional times. This is absolutely insane. It's so hard to get chain on Exsanguinate because it's not a projectile, right? If it doesn't have a projectile tag, it's not a projectile. You cannot use like the snake bait or whatever, the ring that gives you chain for projectiles. You cannot use quiver because that chains arrows. So any chain for arrows or chain for projectiles doesn't work. So you have to use either Gloomfang which gives you no damage because the damage is only for projectiles, but does give you chain because it's a skills chain plus 1 time, but it's like such a waste of a slot to use Gloomfang, so you don't really want to use that. So the only other option you have is the chain support, so chain or awakened chain. But unfortunately, if you're running that, then you're not running something like trap and mine damage, which is like just 40% more damage almost. So if you're not running trap and mine damage, you're losing that 30 or 40% more damage, however much it ends up being in the end. And you're also getting a negative multiplier because the chain support gem also gives you like 10% or less damage with hits or something like that. So very, very annoying to have to run that because you're losing a huge amount of damage. But with this simple glove modifier, which comes from the Mercs, right? This is the infamous modifier of infamy. You just get 2 chains for free, or just like for 1 suffix. And I got these gloves also very cheap. I got them, I think, for also like 100 chaos or something like that, and they had an open prefix, so you search for the infamous modifier and then as much life and res as you can on them, and an open or crafted prefix that you can replace and craft the conversion, and then you just put like spell suppression, increase damage per frenzy, or any other modifier that you want on the ether modifier. So that's the gloves. I got this for like 100 chaos, and then I slapped some ether and exarch stuff on it and crafted the conversion, and these gloves are gonna last me for a really long time. They're amazing. Then we have boots. For boots, I am running just simple boots with ailment avoidance, so I have like some spell suppression, life, res, 30% movement speed. I got these earlier for I think like 2 divines or something like that. Crafted the avoid ailments on the implicit, action speed on the implicit, and with this amount of avoid ailments, plus what I'm using here is the ancestral vision, we are able to leverage our spell suppression to like turn half of the spell suppression percentage that we have into chance to avoid elemental ailments. And with the setup I have exactly here, it ends up being 100% chance to avoid ignite, freeze, chill, shock, and also scorch, right? If you're not immune to ailments, you are gonna get scorched by your own scarebots, and you're gonna lose like 20 something res of like all elemental resistances, which is terrible for you. So you need to like either overcap, or you need to be somehow some other way immune to scorch. And if you are trying to take advantage of the chill and do like a self-chill, right? That's another setup that you can do with this belt. You can self-chill yourself with your scarebots. You can also overcap your resistances and still be affected by chill. Use the Winter Weave to reverse the chill effect and have more action speed that way, right? So it's another tech that you should be aware of. Then on the rings, I simply looked for rings with most chaos res and life and elemental resistances that I could get, just to simply cap my resistances. For the amulet, I looked for like a +1 with either some damage or like basically any amount of damage. I went to PUB and looked for like upgrade items, like look for items for this slot, looked for whatever was gonna give me the most damage for like really low price for like 1 or 2 div max. And so I got this amulet because I also need some strength, and that was a perfect fit, like some damage per frenzy, +1, mind throwing speed, a good res, energy shield is also useful, strength, and then we have this already had allocated high voltage. This was like someone who was playing the same build probably, who was swapping out of it or upgrading his items, so he was selling that. This is a decent notable to anoint because 100% increased crit chance against shocked enemies will work with scatterbots, of course. And then on the shield also +1, and then I was looking for some spell damage as well as life as well as resistances, and like the highest weight of that with +1. And I found this shield because it also had a huge amount of regen, so I was like, okay, this is gonna pretty much sort my regen. That way I don't have to run Kikazaru. I can run like just normal resistance rings and have just like real items equipped instead of Kikazaru. So I thought it was a really nice catch. I got this also like very, very cheap. So like random corrupted weird items that happen to have the things that you need from other places. So then in the other slots you can get something else. That's how you get your character to be much cheaper. Then for the flasks, we're running simply a diamond, silver, quicksilver, and jade. With the jade flask, I think we have like 20k evasion. Yeah, we have 20k evasion, 15k without the flask. And on the modifiers on the suffixes, we have here increased movement speed, evasion increase, a reduced effect of curses on you just for mapping, and increased critical strike chance. So those are the 4 suffixes I have, and it doesn't matter what flask it's on, all these flasks are gonna just like automatically work. And bleed removal on the life flask. So that is the gear setup. Now let's look at the passive skill tree, which is very straightforward. Still haven't done Uber Lab, of course, because we are level 68. And then we are running here most notably a Lethal Pride. This Lethal Pride gives me here, let's see, what do we have here? We have 4% max life, we have 1% life regen, and then we have double damage on this one and double damage on this one. So it's double DD and 4% life and life regen, and you can get a lot of other stuff. Basically, when I go into PoB, use the calculator for timeless jewels and find something that has the modifiers that you want, right? Also, there is like 5% physical damage as fire that could be useful as well, plus the life and life regen and DD will be basically what you're looking for. And of course the huge amount of strength that we're getting, so any type of like strength, whenever you get like 20 strength or 5% increased strength, that's also going to be useful because you simply are not going to need this on gear anywhere. So that's what we are running for this jewel. This jewel here is the Ancestral Vision, and this one is the Watcher's Eye. I think I got it also for like 1 divine, maybe 2 divines max. Physical damage converted to cold, I needed 35 minimum. They go up to 40, but this one had 35 plus like some regen. I thought maybe I need to run Vitality. This basically was free because like nobody cares about this mod, so that's what I got. And then the pathing is super straightforward. Early on we are pathing through this elemental damage, and also I want to pick up the elemental focus for duration of elemental ailments on enemies. That helps with freeze. If you are struggling with freeze, you could also either anoint or spec the Winter's Embrace, which is 60% freeze duration. The more freeze duration you have, the easier it's going to be for you to freeze. So we're pathing here through the Saboteur and Assassination. I picked up this just because I needed a 20 int, and before I have more, before I path to here, for example, to grab like aura effect or something, or get some more int on gear, then I'm simply doing that temporarily. We're getting the mastery for a regen, which is pretty useful. The mastery is for like each mine applies 2% increased damage taken or 2% reduced damage dealt. Those are really good as well. But here we're pathing mostly for the crit as well as the extra mines and mine detonation speed. Mine detonation speed, very underrated stat. It is very useful. You want a lot of mine detonation speed. It's very, very helpful to have. So we're pathing through here through the instinct for spell suppression. So this is one spell suppression wheel we are taking, and this is another spell suppression wheel we are taking. And that together with quick step as well as intuition and our gear caps our spell suppression. The only spell suppression I have on gear is, I think, the implicit here, and then the suffix on the boots, and the rest just comes from the tree. We also have Swift Killer together with One Step Ahead and Escape Artist. The fact that we're playing Trickster, like one of the reasons why I'm so excited for this build also is because it doesn't care about that many map modifiers, right? You can make it so that it doesn't really matter what map mods you're running. Like you can pretty much work around anything. The only thing that would be maybe a little problematic would be like no regen, less life recovery. You'd have to like maybe equip a couple of instant flasks or something like that to deal with that. But other than that, Trickster is very comfy, can deal with like all the annoying action speed modifiers. We're also running a Ghost Dance, of course, just classic Trickster defense, right? We're getting a bunch of evasion and energy shield, and so we're scaling that for extra recovery. It helps a bunch. And then we're running also this very efficient cluster here. It has small nodes that give you 14% increased damage, big one that gives you 30% increased physical damage and 30 strength, and then also the mastery that gives you 40% increased physical damage with skills that cost life, and of course Exsanguinate does cost life, so 40% increase physical damage. And that's basically the setup. Everything is going to be in the description. You'll find their link to Fearless Dumbo's channel as well as POB for this character. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.